And now on the Two Murrays, Strata Matters with Stephen Brell for the Strata Community Association, New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
Here he is, Stephen Brell, President of the Strata Community Association, here to help you out on 131873. If you live in a strata environment, you're involved in strata, and you've got any questions for Stephen, 131873 is the number.
Yes, indeed. And Mr. Brell, welcome to the studio. Nice to see you. I was reading with a great deal of interest a very extensive story in the Nine media this week about, because I know personally that there's an upside to living in a strata environment. But heavens above, you were in the paper quoted as well this week.
Yes.
With some horror stories.
It was a very busy week. Yeah, no, it was a focus on our new Strata and Property Commissioner, John Minns, and what he is going to do for people living in strata schemes. So it's nice that we're getting a little bit of attention.
They have revolutionised the process for people who have, well, for example, there's a woman who has asthma.
Yep.
She had neighbours move into her block.
Yep.
And both apparently smoked.
Yep.
$17,000 later, she got an order in her favour. Now, it shouldn't have to come to that.
No, that's right. And I think the article was highlighting some of the problems that we're having with our rapidly expanding strata market and the challenges that are faced. So buildings are becoming far more complicated, as we've discussed many times.
David Chandler knows that all too well, and he is the building commissioner in New South Wales.
Yeah, absolutely.
He seems to be doing a hell of a job.
He in the short period that he's been in, he's actually done a remarkable job turning things around. So, and builders and developers are getting the message out there.
I was going to say, is there a lot of low-hanging fruit, like in regards to the changes?
Some of the builders, you mean?
No. Yeah. No, but changes in the industry. I mean, there have been a lot of things around that have been very quick to solve that have really made life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. His focus always has been in making everyone in the supply chain responsible for their part of it. So whether it be the planners, the designers, the certifiers, and obviously the builders themselves, making sure that they're all responsible for their own piece as they go along. And what he hopes to do is to eradicate the dodgy developers that are out there.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I mean, he's gone into Mascot Towers. He's gone into Opal. He's gone into a string of different developers along the way, some with massive problems. Just clearly there was no oversight as they were being built, or no satisfactory level of oversight.
No, that's right.
Because how can you wind up, you've spent $100 million or $200 million building a whole bunch of apartments and it's cracking at the basement level? I just don't understand how that can happen.
Yeah, the problem was just decisions made in the late 90s where private certification was all the rage. So for the last 20 odd years, we've had private certifiers who are going through and ticking these developments off. And regrettably, there was very little that an owner's corporation or a body corporate could do if they did find themselves with defects in their building. There was only one option, and that was a legal option. And it was a very, very expensive way to get things resolved. What David Chandler has done and come in, he's now made it various options available for owners' corporations to pursue defects. And the one which I want to remind everyone about is Project Intervene, which is where you contact his office free of charge.
Yep.
They will come out and do a report on behalf of your owners' corporation. And if they find serious defects, they will negotiate the repair of those with the developer.
Okay,
so it's a very cost-effective way to do it.
All right, 131873 is the number if you want to have a chat to Stephen, 131873. Interesting, you sent through some notes to us prior to the program. Department of Fair Trading received 406 complaints lodged against Strata Managers last year.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, yeah. Now, I'd like to put this into context, and it's probably going to sound very funny to listeners that the president of the association is actually asking for complaints.
Yep.
The reason why
the
reason why we want them, particularly about Strata Managers, and I'm talking about in a professional context here, not from a customer service point of view, but if you think your manager is doing something unethical or something that they shouldn't be doing, I would urge everyone out there. There is a complaint form on our website, which everyone can access and fill in, and we go through a formal complaints process where we have a very strict and a very stringent reporting capacity for people to do have a complaint handling process.
Yep.
And every strata manager who is a member of our association, they should also have a complaints handling guide on their website as well. And that's how the individual firm deals with a complaint.
Can I suppose, address the elephant in the room? People are probably listening to you saying that, and they probably agree with you and think that's admirable. but it's like we're complaining to the body that actually looks after them.
Yeah, that's right.
So where is my complaint going to go?
Well, again, if we find that a member is doing something unethical,
Yes.
we will report them to fair trading.
Okay.
Okay,
Righto.
and we've got a very good relationship with the Fair Trading Office in that regard. But what it is for us is to try and educate strata managers on what practices they should be putting out there, which are ethical and consumer focused.
Okay, right up.
And when you get a good one, that relationship is great. Because
Absolutely, yep.
There are multiple people dealing with that one person.
Sure,
And
sure.
As we all know in our everyday life, that can be a bit challenging. But if someone, you have confidence they're doing the right thing, you trust them, life is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Doesn't
that's
always
right.
happen.
No,
It's
it
like
doesn't
everything. Communication between your manager, your committee, and the owners and the residents in the scheme is absolutely key. And when the communication is right and it's effective, you'll find that the relationship is a lot easier to manage.
131873 is our telephone number. Of course, Stephen Brell is with us. 2 Muzzies, Sunday afternoon. Let's go to Rose Meadow because Elena is with us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. How can we help Elena this afternoon?
Well, I need some help again. I spoke to Stephen last year in your program, and I was very thankful for his help.
Good.
But I'm stuck again because since last year, Duplex has to do some papers to tell the government how much the insurance we pay.
Yep.
So I went last year and I did it. It was really terrible, complicated, but at the end it was done with the help of the New South Wales Service and someone from Fair Trading. So I went again last Thursday with my family, and no one could understand from the New South Wales Service because this year they asked for more, and they don't allow us to continue to fill the form. It's getting more complicated. With, in the first place, the only thing they want to know how much we pay for insurance. So my question is,
I'm glad you're asking Stephen.
Where we could go, and if we can use his service to do the papers once a year, because the neighbors next door, they're in the same situation like me. I am the one that because I did the paper, I have to front all the question and all the things on the computer, and they don't. And the person on the other side is very nasty.
Okay, let's see if we can short circuit this for you, Alana.
Bring Steve on Monday.
Yeah. So, Alana, what you're talking about here is your insurance renewal, and like anyone who renews their insurance, you do have to go through a questionnaire because the insurers are trying to find out what risk they are taking on when they insure your property. Okay, so it's not uncommon that you have to go through a renewal process and fill in some forms, and they will ask you some very basic questions about your property. Now, if you're dealing with a mainstream strata insurer, their process is fairly efficient. If you're dealing with an insurer that generally looks after households like an NRMA or a GIO, it might be a little bit more convoluted because they don't specialise in strata insurance.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but again, to the advice that the Muzzies have put on, if you want to ring the association on Monday, 9492 8200, we'll be more than happy to help. And there are brokers and so forth that we can put you in contact with.
Okay, beautiful. All right, Alana, I hope that helps you out. 131873 is the number. Steve's on the line. Hello, Steve.
G'day, guys. Just calling on behalf of a friend of mine. She's got a house with a one-bedroom unit built over the top of the back of the garages, basically, which is how the house was originally built. Right. Now, we got rid of the body corporate. We've still got strata management, and basically all they do is organise the building insurance. And I'm sure they're not doing that for nothing. So I'm just wondering I'm probably asking the last person I should be asking, is there any way to get rid of the strata management and do the insurance ourselves?
No, absolutely there is. So there's no obligation on any owner's corporation to appoint a strata manager to look after their scheme. So again, depending on the complexity of your friend's development, and by the sounds of it, it is fairly simple, you simply need to dismiss or terminate the strata manager. What happens there, however, is that all the obligations of the owner's corporation and the management and administration would then fall back on to the owners in the development. Okay. Yeah, it was actually, I've got another talking point which we might get to later in the show about small strata schemes and the complexities that arise in those properties. But to answer your question, Steve, no, you do not have to appoint a strata manager.
Okay, beautiful.
Particularly if the apartment is part of the main home. There may be two titles.
That's right.
131873 is our number. Stephen Brell, our special guest. Let's go to Liam, Wiley Park. Hello, Liam.
Hey, how you going?
Pretty good, sir. What's your query, please?
So my question is, I'm just actually calling up to maybe get a bit of advice. So we just recently purchased an apartment in a block in Wiley Park.
Yep.
We've been sold the apartment with a storage cage, but one of the tenants or other owners that lives in our apartment block has left all their items in our storage cage.
Sell them.
We've gone on to the Strata Management Company, and we've gone on to the real estate agent that sold us the apartment to try and get this mediated and try and get this issue resolved, but nothing's been done about it at all.
Is it any good?
Hey?
Is it any good? Got any golf clubs or nice symbols?
Yeah. I think there's a case of beer or something down there that would be nice to pull out, but we've come down to our only option being to actually cut the locks off, remove their items, place them in front of their unit, and move our stuff in.
Yeah, and
we don't really want to do, because obviously that's going to cause an issue within the apartment, but I feel like that's our only option considering no one else is stepping in to do this.
Stephen.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one there, Liam. So usually when you purchase a property or when you move in and you're renting a property, you acquire the property with something called vacant possession, which means that you walk in and everything's removed from the property.
Yeah.
Now, I can't comment on what's happened with the previous occupants of the apartment. Obviously, they may have forgotten that they've had this storage cage or forgotten that they've had goods down there. Regrettably, though, because it's on your property, right, so this is no different if it was in your apartment, there's little that the owner's corporation can do on your behalf because it's within your lot. What I would do is contact the person that helped you with your conveyance. They would then generally contact the previous owner and let them know what's going on, and you might be able to work out something there with the former owner.
Because Liam, he's bought the apartment,
Yep.
and he's bought what should be vacant storage space.
That's right.
Is on the same title.
Well, yes and no.
Hang on, how long have you been an expert?
No, because we went through this when we bought a place. We did, you know when you go and buy a place, you do a final inspection?
Yep.
The shed was full of stuff, like chock-a-block with rubbish and God knows what else. Right. I worked on the assumption that it was all going to be cleaned out. So when you go through and do the final inspection and you sign off on it, you're happy with the way that the property is at the time of the final inspection, and that's how you're going to occupy it or take its possession.
Again, was there anything good in it?
No, it was all rubbish.
Right, so you have to pay to take it,
get
it removed.
And they don't want to know about it. They don't care. Well, they did, and when I told them, because I knew where they lived, and I said, I'm just going to take all this stuff and put it at your new place. They didn't like the idea of that, so they came and collected it.
So they should.
Well,
it's just bloody rude.
It's a bit of a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. And to your point, there's it does happen. It happens more often than what you'd think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, regrettably for you, Liam, again, you might be on your own here, but I would, to the point that you were going to make, it'd be worthwhile opening up the cage, having a look at what's inside. If there is valuable stuff in there, it may well just be that the former resident forgot about it, which you might find hard to believe, but it happens all the time.
And you can say, well, you know what, it's mine.
You can either have it or,
It came with the place when I bought it.
Yep.
It's not the former residents that have their stuff in there. It's actually one of the other units.
Oh, it's one of the other units. Okay, well, in that case, it's going to be a little bit easier. In that case, it's going to be a little bit easier for you because at least you'll be able to contact them within your strata scheme. So, you should be able to get in contact with the strata manager, let them know that, hey, someone's put their storage items in my cage.
There you go.
And I'd like them to remove them for you.
Yep,
so,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good on you, Liam. Let us know how you go, mate.
Yeah, call us next week, please.
Yep.
Mate, I'll be taking it all out and just throw it in front of their front door.
Well, you'd have to ask them first.
Why?
Well, you just...
Well, okay, ask them first, and if they refuse, then put it in front of their front door.
No kidding. And put a match to it.
Not inside the unit block.
No, probably on
the
verge.
You'd be in trouble. 131873. We're going to take a very short break. If you want to have a chat this... What?
Okay.
You're the one that always hassles me about taking breaks.
All right.
Now I want to take one, you don't want to take one.
No, fine, over to you.
All right, don't have a hissy
Don't be
fit.
cranky.
20... Hello? Someone didn't get any sleep last night. Stephen Brell's with us, President, Strata Community Association. If you want to have a chat to him, 131873. Where are we off to?
We are going to Borkham Hills because Helen has joined us. Hello, Helen.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon to you. How may we be of assistance?
Well, hopefully you can. My sister has a townhouse she purchased several years ago, and it doesn't have a fence on one of the common property line in her backyard.
Right.
All the other 12 townhouses have completely sealed backyards, but hers doesn't. And she's approached the committee several times asking to build the fence. And they keep saying, nope, it's not a common property fence, it's within your boundary. But there's no fence there, which means the other units at the other block can actually walk in and out of her backyard.
Oh,
And,
right. So there's no privacy for your sister.
That's correct.
But privacy for every other unit.
That's correct.
You get an electric fence.
Well, there is that. And she can sit there with a cattle problem, probably not ideal. Stephen, over to you, sir.
I keep saying she purchased as is, but even in the plans, it shows there was a fence supposed to go there.
Yep, so the first thing that your sister's going to have to do, Helen, is have a look at the strata plan, because that will tell her what's defined as the boundary. Now, if the fence is on the boundary between herself and the neighbouring property, it will be the owner's corporation's responsibility to erect the fence, and again, that comes under the Dividing Fences Act. If the plan shows that the boundary is actually of her lot, okay, it may actually be her responsibility. But the first thing she's got to do is have a look at the strata plan. I'd be asking, now, reading a strata plan, it is relatively simple if you know what you're doing. However, I'd be asking, have your sister's scheme got a manager that looks after it for her? Or
a strata manager?
They have got a strata manager, but most of the committee are the ones who vote for what goes on.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they've been playing a little game of looking after themselves more than anyone else.
Yep. So,
But there's a retaining wall there that's incomplete. So, and that's where the fence is supposed to go on that retaining wall.
right, okay. So when we get retaining walls involved, again, it's also under the Dividing Fences Act. However, there's special rules when it comes to retaining walls as well. But again, first steps first is have a look at the strata plan. The strata manager should be able to advise her on that. If they don't, she can also go to the Land and Property Information Service. So, old buggers like me know it as the, not RTO, they know it as the Land Titles Office.
Land Titles Office.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now it's called the LPI.
I've got a copy of the plan. I've got a copy of the strata plan. I've also got a copy of what the council approved to be built there.
Yep.
I've got all that. They're just declining. They keep just declining.
Yeah. Okay. So if you do find out that they are responsible to put the fence in, and from everything you're telling me, it sounds like that.
Yeah.
This is where
Administrative Appeals Tribunal.
This is where you'd go through mediation. Okay, ask for the Owners Corporation to put it in. If mediation fails, you then go to NCAT, which is the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal.
And any fees incurred with that, can we recoup that from them?
The tribunal tends not to award costs, particularly when it's a dispute between two owners. However, it depends on how belligerent the owners are being. So if they are blatantly wrong and they're just refusing for the sake of refusing, as you said, they're playing a little bit of committee politics with everything, the tribunal member might be sympathetic.
Okay, all right.
I hope that helps. I hope that helps, Helen.
Yeah. Let us know how you go, Helen, with all of that, really. 131873.
Here's a text about getting rid of that stuff in the storage
Yeah,
shed.
it's not a bit of advice,
But
actually.
he doesn't want to wait 28 days. He shouldn't have to. He's bought the place.
Okay, well, it's
he
not
wants
good
to
advice.
move
Then.
in.
Okay, well, it's not good advice then.
I like your advice. Knock on the door.
Oi.
Your stuff's in my storage shed. Get it out. You got 24 hours. Right?
It's pretty simple.
Don't you think? It's
Yeah,
pretty
well,
bloody
I do.
rude
I
as
do
well.
that. I do. I think the people that have got this stuff
You
in
just
there-
I think you just send Stephanie in.
No, I'd go in. I wouldn't have any
I reckon your
dramas.
wife would be more scary than you.
Oh!
No, in a nice way.
There's a pointer.
This is Strata Matters for the Strata Community Association New South Wales, the peak body representing the strata industry.
Stephen is with us, 131873 if you want to have a chat to him, all right? 131873.
And let's go to Newport because Alison is with us this afternoon. Hi, Alison.
Oh, hello. I love your show. Absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you so much. How can we help today, darling?
All the segments. Well, it's by way of a warning, actually. Not so much to do with Strata, but Strata Managers might like to take notice. We had a fire order imposed on us by the council on our 1965 block of 10 units
Yeah.
3-4 years ago. And we took on the fire protection company. Now, I'm not sure, but I think they're self-regulated. We wasted so much money. We have 2 lobbies. Each lobby had 2 doors. So 4 doors were replaced by fire doors. The certifier came along and said, no, you can't have them opening as they did before into carports. You have to knock a hole in the breeze block wall and have just one entranceway going out to the front of the building, which is about 6 feet away. We had that done. Also, we had all the metal surrounds were installed. certifier came along and said, no, you can't. No, they're not filled. They're hollow. You can't be hollow. So they all had to be taken out, taken downstairs, filled with cement or whatever they put in them, and then reinstalled. It cost us thousands, and it was just such an awful experience.
Dreadful experience, yeah.
Yeah, and then to add insult to injury, one of the women whose carport was slightly altered, but by the installation of two big yellow bollards, now wants compensation of about, I don't know what she wants, $15,000-$20,000 for the loss of her 2.5 or 3.5 square metres of her carport, which is actually a sort of dogleg area. So, yes, it's a very tricky situation, and I think if anybody has a fire order, be very, very careful who they... Sorry, I'm terribly nervous. Be very, very careful who they get to do it for them.
Okay, it's a very timely, Alison, because, of course,
thank you, Alison.
There's a brand new fire inspection regime coming in. I mean, clearly, it's absolutely inappropriate that you would be required to put up one set of fire doors and then, they're the wrong sort, they're opening the wrong way, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, Alison gives us a very cautionary tale here about the importance of getting really expert advice. So fire orders are not uncommon in Sydney, and as she describes, particularly for older strata blocks.
1965 block?
That's right, yeah. Normally what happens with a fire order, they are issued by the local council. Okay, and sometimes, as Alison's describing here, they can go over the top with what they're recommending. So what most owners corporations would do is bring in their own fire expert to negotiate with council and say, okay, what is really needed in our block here versus, what you're wanting us to do. And then you whittle away and you actually come to a solution which will satisfy council, it will satisfy the New South Wales Fire Brigades, and it will satisfy the fire engineer as well.
At the end of the day, aren't you meant to satisfy the New South Wales Fire and Rescue? At the end of the day,
that's right.
Not some nufty in local council that's probably never been behind his desk.
And part of the problem is, I won't call them nufties at council, but often you get the individual inspector who's interpreting the law, in their own way. And
of course.
Yeah, that's right. So
yes.
they can be a little bit dogged with it. And again, I have seen in circumstances where, yes, you do get the local fire brigade involved, and if they're satisfied with the solution, that can help as well. But again, it's a very good advice for listeners out there. If you have something like a fire order imposed on your building, make sure you get the proper advice.
Okay. Right.
Is that maybe to suggest, Stephen, that they would get maybe 3 quotes or go to 3 different companies to have that inspection carried out?
First off, get a fire engineer that specialises in strata. Okay, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago.
Are they advertised?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
so
right. On your website?
On our website,
Good.
we have a lot of fire inspection companies there and engineers as well that will be able to assist owners corporations in this regard. And part of the problem is for older schemes, they don't go through the regular annual testing of fire like a lot of the modern schemes
Why
do.
not?
So, because the regulations for older schemes are different. So, again, they didn't have all the fire apparatus installed when they were built, so there's no requirement to do the annual inspection, okay? But what happens
is... updating their existing fire
Yeah, that's
system.
right. Yeah, that's right. And I think probably what's happened in Alison's building is that maybe someone has made a complaint to council or inquired with council about what the fire safety was, or they may have had a fire in the building. Yeah. So someone's come out and had a look and said, right, this needs to be upgraded. Once that occurs, they're then on the annual cycle to get their things inspected. So older schemes don't have the experience with fire contractors.
Right. We've just had ours done, our annual one done, and they come in, they have a smoke thing that they puff up at the...
the smoke detector.
They even now check down lights to make sure they're compliant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's, Mars, you mentioned it earlier. So, and this is something for listeners, particularly in strata schemes, to be very wary of. From February next year, there is a new fire inspection regime coming out called Australian Standard 1851, 2012, I think it is. What this standard is, and you mentioned this earlier, at the moment, how fire apparatus are inspected is largely up to the fire contractor that you appoint. Right. It's up to what what the standard they think is correct. under this new standards now, it's regulated. So they must all inspect to the same standard, which is far more stringent.
Why would they not anyway?
Yeah, fire extinguishers,
This comes back
alarms.
What?
This comes back to a little bit what we were talking about earlier. So under private certification, where it's every person's opinion,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they're now making it right, guys. We've got to stop. We've got to make it a standard, and that's what it is.
Okay, so listen, Tisha sent us a text. 2 roller doors to the underground car park. They have been broken now for months. The building manager keeps offering excuses, but never when the doors will be fixed. We are wondering if the Strata has run out of funds as the repairs required just don't happen. We don't get any statements. So maybe Tisha is renting, and that's why she's not getting the statements or not kept up with the Strata. But seriously, how long does it take for something like that to happen?
Look, during the COVID period, we did see supply chain issues, particularly for things like lift elevators and that sort of thing, which is a real headache for a lot of owners' corporations. This is a bit of a two-pronged question here. So I would be asking, why is it taking so long? Like a garage door motor, generally speaking, is not that difficult to replace, although if there are springs in the door, they can take a time to actually get made up and so forth. However, it shouldn't take months. As far as getting a statement from your owner's corporation or strata manager, every scheme that's professionally managed, the manager must give the committee a statement every 3 months.
Right.
Now, most modern-day strata managers will have things like portals and so forth where you can go in and log in and have a look at your statement and see what the funds are. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't like to think that the owner's corporation has run out of money because that would be a fairly dire consequence if that has occurred. Yeah. However, again, if you've got a strata manager, Tricia, I'd be simply ringing them and saying, hey, can you flick us a statement? It can be very simple. Or have a look if they've got a portal where you can go and have a look at what your statement is.
Hope that helps.
Who is responsible if the Strata Committee runs out of money? Let's just say the money. Can the Strata Manager, the independent, come in and have they got the overall? No, you can't be doing this. Or do the committee call the shots? Does the buck stop with the committee?
It's a great question. So Strata managers can make recommendations. You do. I won't say that you're coming from a place of ignorance, but it's. The buck stops with the Strata Committee. So a Strata manager can make recommendations and they can make all sorts of suggestions, prepare budgets for owners' corporations. At the end of the day, it's up to the owners to decide how much money they want to put away into their funds to run their scheme.
Okay, so if something dramatically goes wrong and there is no money because it's been mismanaged, can the other residents take action against the Strata Committee?
Yeah, there's a few things that would have occurred in that circumstance. And look, unbudgeted expenses do come along for owners' corporations. So you may be in a circumstance where you need to call a special meeting to come in and say, hey, look, we need to raise some additional funds.
Yep.
New laws that were passed late last year, December last year, which was the first tranche of the most recent reforms, there is a new provision that an owners' corporation can sack their committee with a 50% majority. Okay, prior to that, you needed a 75% majority, which is a fairly high threshold.
50%?
Yeah, so now they've reduced that down. So if you have a strata meeting, 50% of owners there can say, hey, look, we're not really happy with the way that you're administering our property. We'd like to sack you. So there is, and it's a point which I try and stress to committees that you do have obligations when you nominate for a strata committee.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and you need to know what's going on.
Yeah, okay.
131873 is our telephone number. This does relate to, you mentioned smaller blocks because half of the strata schemes in New South Wales are 5 apartments or less.
Yep.
And a lot of those apartment blocks and the owners therein don't have strata managers. I just find that quite astonishing.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of smaller strata schemes choose not to appoint a strata manager, which is fine, because generally speaking, a smaller scheme is simple. The owners can administer it themselves, and away they go. What prompted me to raise this week is we had a caller come in to our office who said the previous secretary sold their property and he handed the books and records to another resident in the scheme who was taking over. The new secretary simply changed their insurances, like the amount of the insurances, right, without letting anyone else know. Right, so the value. And what he was trying to do, he was doing it in good faith, he was trying to actually reduce their premium.
Right.
And we had to say to him, look, sir, you can't just arbitrarily change the amount of insurances. That's really got to go to a strata meeting. So it's these little, tricks and tips that owners and secretaries and committee members need to understand. What the rules, there are rules that govern them, and if they do make an error, it can be costly to the owners' corporation as a whole.
131873 is our telephone number. Let's go to Steve, who's calling us from Manly. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good, sir. How can we help this afternoon?
Look, I'll try and put this in a nutshell. I bought one or two villas in the year 2000 up at a place called Boomerang Beach in Foster.
Yep.
And my brother-in-law bought the other one, and everything was going fine. We paid our own way. We had problems with our gutters. We did our own gutters, etc. And then he sold out 4 years ago to a person, and the guy's a really good fella. And we don't go up there often, but he found in the letterbox when he was up there at Christmas a letter from the Department of Fair Trading saying that he's got to start complying and having strata meetings and strata reports and open a bank account. Like, we've kind of been paying our own way and running things very simply up until now. Obviously, we want to comply. But I guess firstly, they never tried to track us down to our address. They just shoved the letter in a letterbox, and it says that our first report should have been in like 12 months ago. The next one should have been in, before June this year. And it says there's $5,500 fines if you don't have it done by these dates. So I guess the question, it's simplified. It's a very simple thing we're running here. And I've been on the Fair Trading website, and I've just been kind of down to $1. So I went to the New South Wales, New South Wales and $1, thinking, because it says on the letter to go to Services New South Wales for advice. So I went to them thinking, it's a little place in $1. I'll have time to kind of give me advice. And I went in there and the lady said, no, we can't help you. And I said, but it says to come here. And she said, yeah, it's only to come here and use our computer.
Sorry. I shouldn't have laughed. Sorry.
Man.
Steve, thank you for the call, Steve. It's a very, very dodgy line. Mr. Brell, what do you think?
Yeah, what Steve is referring to here is something which is called Strata Hub. Now, this is a new regulation that came in July last year, and it requires every owners corporation to register their details with New South Wales Fair Trading. Now, there is a portal that you log on to, and you go in and you basically report very simple information about your scheme. So your insurances, the amount of capital works funds that you have and so forth.
Right.
And what it is, this is the regulator trying to look after owners corporations to ensure that they are compliant. Right. Now, Steve's situation is not uncommon. Most duplexes, so again, it's yourself and one other neighbour, when things go wrong, you generally just have a chat over the back fence and say, hey, look, we need to raise some money for our roof or our gardens or our insurance or whatever it is. It is very simplistic. Where the government is coming from is trying to make sure that strata schemes are compliant with their obligations. So when things do go wrong, or if they do go wrong, there is a bit of a paper trail there that they can see what's happening. And but regardless of the size of your scheme, whether you're two lots or 2,000 lots, you need to be compliant with the law.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
I hope that helps you out, Steve.
Yep.
Probably not the news you want to hear. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. This is the Two Mussies. Stephen Brell with us this afternoon. 94928200. We'll put you in touch with the Strata Community Association. If that's a good place to go and answer swags of different questions, we can do so this afternoon. Let's go to Gymea Bay. And Sean is on the line. G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. How can we help?
I love the show, guys.
Thank you.
Just a quick one. Just about to move into a new duplex. The other side is already in. There's a strata company being appointed with Strata Manager. Now, the only common property we have is a wall between the two of us. I understand we have obligations, but are we able to manage that ourselves, or do we have to have a strata company?
No, absolutely, Sean. So like the advice I was giving earlier, no owners corporation or body corporate is under any obligation to appoint a strata manager. By the sounds of it, you've got a fairly simple setup there with a duplex.
Yeah. Two properties, one wall.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. That's right. So, you'll have all the usual obligations of an owners corporation under the Strata Act, but your record keeping will be fairly simple. It would be yourself and the other neighbour. Your obligations will be things like the common property maintenance, insurance, and so forth.
Annual inspections, fire and whatnot.
That's right, yeah. But generally speaking, it is fairly simplistic. So if you don't want to have a strata manager, you don't need one at all. But completely up to yourself and your neighbour.
Beautiful. All right, Sean.
A Friday night meeting over a couple of beers and a barbecue.
Sounds pretty good.
Exactly right.
What time should we be around?
Yes, we'll be there. We'll be there.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean. All the best. Olivia's on the line from Borkham Hills. Hello, Olivia.
Hi.
How can we help? Good afternoon.
Thank you. We're a strata complex, more than 20 units. We are Class 2 building. We're under a council fire order, and we're trying to fix everything. But the problem is that at the basement we've got. So the council is wanting us to put a fire collar in so that the fire, when it happens, doesn't raise up into the buildings. But every time it rains, the collar leaks. And then the council will come around and go, well, this isn't compliant. And so I was wondering, how do we move forward from there? Because,
Wow.
Yeah,
the fire contractors are telling us it's ridiculous to have that leak proof.
To have it leak proof, yeah. So just for the benefit of all the listeners, what Olivia's talking about, a fire collar is a fire safety device that's placed around a pipe that generally penetrates through a concrete slab.
Yeah.
And what happens is, if there is a fire in a basement area, the collar will collapse, and that stops the spread of the fire through the other pipework. By the sounds of it, the collar's not the problem. If there is a leak coming through, it might be coming through the concrete itself. I don't know, Olivia, if you've had anyone out there to actually test it, but what I would be doing is getting a plumber or another type of expert out there just to test where the leak is coming from, and that will tell you whether or not it's coming through the collar itself or whether it's coming through adjacent to the collar.
Can I tell you, with water, you might have a drip in your ceiling and it is not directly above inside the roof where the tiles are. It could be down the other end of the house and it's just travel.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to try and identify where the leak is coming from.
Yeah,
and then you seal the source of the leak, and hopefully that will solve the problem.
A couple of quick text messages here. Can the Owners Committee, Stephen, vote against a rise in strata fees from the strata manager?
Yes, they can. So, again, yes, they can.
Quick one here from Matt. How difficult is it to change a strata manager? Ours has been particularly unresponsive for 2 years.
Sure. So every strata manager is appointed by a management agreement, and the maximum term for a strata manager in New South Wales is 3 years.
Right.
So first things first, check the length of your contract and when it's due to expire. When that's due, their election will come up or their appointment will come up again, and you can appoint another strata manager.
And who has the right to vote on the new strata manager? The committee or all of the residents?
All owners get to vote.
All owners get to vote on that.
Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
Mate, listen, good to see you. As always, stack of people that want to get hold of you. Best telephone number for people to give you a call Monday to Friday.
9492 8200.
And what about Stephen? How can they ring him?
That's the number.
That's your number. I thought that was your number.
You're an idiot. So there you go. Look, the Strata Community Association asked for Stephen by name. He's bespoke.
I wouldn't be doing that.
9492 8200. Lovely to see you, Steve. Thanks for coming in.
No worries. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Stephen Brell from the Strata Community Association.